Hey everybody! Today we are going to explore how we can convert amongst customary units of length and also how we can solve real-world problems that involve converting amongst customary units of length. To review, customary units of length are those that the United States and just 2 other countries use, and they're kind of these old school units, inches, feet, and yards, and they measure distance or length. Some tools that you can use at home to help you visualize customary units of length are a ruler, which is 1 foot, and this tells us that there are 12 inches in 1 foot, and a yardstick. Super long, not all of us have this. Maybe we have a measuring tape for sewing, and this shows us that there are 3 feet or 36 inches in a yard. Some visuals are very helpful. All right, let's get started with a few basics. If I want to convert from a larger unit to a smaller unit, I would multiply because we need more of those smaller units. For example, if I wanted to figure out how many inches were in a foot, I would multiply 1 foot times 12 because there are 12 inches in a foot, and the inches are a lot smaller. All right, so here's an example, number 3 on page 273 of your workbook for today. How many inches are in 12 feet? Well, I'm going from a larger unit to a smaller unit, so I will multiply 12 feet, 12 times 12, because there are 12 inches in each foot, and that will tell me that there are 144 inches in 12 feet. So again, I'm multiplying. 144 inches. Okay, but say I want to convert to a larger unit. Well, I'm going to divide because I would need fewer of those large units. So for example, if I had 12 inches and I wanted to figure out how many feet that was, I would divide by 12 because I just would have 1 foot with my 12 inches. Here's another example. This is example problem number 1. On page 273, how many feet are in 24 inches? Well, I know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot, so I'm going to divide 24 by 12, and that will show me that there are 2 feet in 24 inches. All right, so now we know some basics between converting, but let's see how we can use these instructions for converting to solve a real-world problem where we need to move amongst customary units of length. This is an example of a multi-step word problem. It is problem number 13 on page 274. I'm going to read through it, and as I do, I'm going to circle and underline the numbers to figure out what they mean. Nick needs 65 yards of wire for a project. If the wire is only sold on spools which hold 6 feet of wire, how many spools will he need? Okay, so Nick is doing a project and he needs a certain amount of wire for the project. It's measured in yards. But when he goes to the store, they're measuring their wire in feet and selling it in groups of 6 feet. That's what those numbers mean. And the question is, how many spools will he need? There are a couple steps here, but my first step with these problems is to figure out what conversion is happening. I need to get from yards to feet because I'm buying the spools in measurements of feet. So that means that I'm going from a larger unit to a smaller unit, and we learned that doing that means we need to multiply. So my first step in this problem then is to figure out how many feet of wire does Nick need, because then I can begin to figure out how many spools he needs. So I'm trying to figure out how many feet are in 65 yards, just like the problems on the previous page. Again, going from a larger to a smaller unit, so I'm going to multiply. And looking at my conversion table on the previous page, page 273, I know that there are 3 feet in a yard. So I'm going to multiply 65 times 3 to figure out how many feet are in 65 yards. 65 times 3 is 195. So 195 feet of wire is how many feet of wire Nick needs. All right, I'm halfway there because I know how many feet of wire he needs, but he needs to buy a certain number of spools of that wire, and they break it up into groups of 6. That idea groups tells me I'm trying to figure out how many groups of 6 feet of wire go into 195 feet. That tells me that I'm going to need to divide. So I finished step 1. I figured out how many feet of wire are needed. Now I need to figure out how many groups of 6 feet of wire go into 195. 195 divided by 6. 6 goes into 19 3 times. 6 times 3 is 18. Subtract. Bring down the 5. 6 goes into 15 2 times. 6 times 2 is 12. 15 minus 12 is 3. So there are 32 groups, or 32 spools, but with a remainder of 3. And I can't purchase a remainder of 3, so I'm going to need to buy 33 spools. I'll move up with my remainder, and I'll just have a little bit of wire left over. So my answer is 33 spools of wire. And now we've gone over the basics of converting amongst customary units of length and how we can use those conversions to solve real-world problems.